style of decks.
Oh,
I just think
that.
that Standard is populated by so many, battle cruisers, that you have to sometimes make minor concessions to that. All right, so
Game 2 of Esper v. Esper.
Yep, Obi on the play leads with Glacial Fortress and Swamp versus Demars Dark Slick Shores. The second Dark Slick Shores comes down, and for those just tuning in, I'm Patrick Chapin with Adrian Sullivan. Brian Demars is up 1-0 in the Esper mid-range mirror.
Now, Obi is playing a Lone Revenant deck. So, Lone Revenant, blue 3 for a untargetable by your opponent, a awesome potential impulse caster. Oh, Lone Revenant, if it's alone, when it hits a player, allows you to look at the top 4 cards of your library and choose one and put it in your hand.
Now, it's interesting that he's only got 1 Restoration Angel, helping make room for those Lone Revenants that we spoke of, but he's also got Batter Skulls and more Alchemies and multiple Blue Sun Zeniths.
And Lingering Souls for a Lone Revenant deck.
Yeah, just 2 of them.
Yeah.
Playing a more controlling game than Demars is. He's playing a bit bigger, but what's interesting is he only has 2 Snapcaster Mages, and he doesn't have the early game Blade Splicer action that Demars has.
So going to the game in progress, 3 land versus 3 land, and at the end of turn, Obi casts a Forbidden Alchemy, and 1 land and 2 spells in the yard from that. I don't think either of those are flashback spells.
That's not a Lingering Souls?
I don't think so. I think
Might
that's
just be
an
the
Oblivion
Restoration.
Ring.
Okay. Now, it's interesting that Obi doesn't have any Sun Titans in the main deck. No, he doesn't have him in the board either. He sure looks like a Sun Titan
Yeah,
deck.
Phantasmal Image in a deck that is Esper usually expects a Sun Titan at some point to go with it. If not in the main, then in the board. We see a 5th land from Obi. Now, this is game 2, so they have had the opportunity to sideboard. Important to note, Obi's main deck includes Dissipate. A lot of the Esper decks don't go that far into the counterspell world, so what Obi is really trying to do is actually grasp a pure control style.
Meanwhile, Demars playing a slightly more controlling game than even MJ. He's got a Dismember in addition to the 3 black removal spells. He's got a 2nd Alchemy. He's got a 2nd Sun Titan. He wants to be a little bit bigger and has a little bit less reliance on things like Gutshot. Out of the sideboard, we see a fairly similar mix of things. Not too much. I think it's going to be an interesting little juxtaposition of roles for Demars to not be the control player.
Yeah,
he loves being the guy who's always playing a slightly bigger controlling version, but now he's up against an actual control deck.
And Brian goes, end of turn Snapcaster Mage. He is now trying to put down some kind of pressure. He knows he can't go long, not really. He actually has to close the game out before Obi takes over.
Otherwise, those alchemies will start chaining together, and Demars will fall hopelessly behind. As it is now, he's already in pretty bad shape. Obi's gone straight up to 7.
Look at all of that mana. I mean, Obi is just set.
And with an alchemy, the thing about the alchemies, like Mystical Teachings, not quite to the same degree, but like Mystical Teachings, once you start flashing them back, they just all chain together,
We see 4 mana here. 5 mana, Batterskull?
Batterskull playing on Mana Leak and with mana to bounce it in case of, O-Ring or Divine Offering. This is real bad for Demars.
Now, on the top end of the game, I mean, Brian Demars, at his top end after sideboard, can go to Gideon Jura. Contrast that with Obi, who goes to Karn and Elishnorn and Consecrated Sphinx.
Absolutely. I mean, 2 Sun Titans and a Gideon is hardly much of an endgame compared to 3 Lone Revenants, a Karn, an Elishnorn, a Consecrated Sphinx, even a Gideon of his own if he wants it, 2 Batterskulls. I mean, he is not short on things that are big. The way that Demars really needs to get an advantage is from an early Blade Splicer or just early Snapcaster Mage beatdown.
Right, like is what he's trying to do here. Going for the Throat of the Germ at the end of the turn, and then I believe we're going to see the untap. That Germ can come back and...
Well, no, very interestingly, Demars is also representing Divine Offering.
This is true.
Because if Obi tries to bounce the Batterskull, he's threatening to destroy it in response. And Demars is a savvy enough mental game player that he's going to be subtly suggesting it without overselling it. There's a good chance Obi will still just bounce it anyway, but it'll be interesting to see if Obi goes for Demars' bluff.
And he's like, I've got plenty of time. I'm on an 8-turn clock right now.
He says, it's probably one of those situations where he's like, look, I know you're probably bluffing, But
I'm not going to risk it.
I'm going to give you the credit. You know, like, you might have it, and I'm in such a good spot, I'd rather just play it slow.
He's even got another Batterskull in his hand. And it just comes down. Lays the land. There's the 5. Plus a tapped land. Batterskull. You know, a germ can carry 2 Batterskulls.
Absolutely, and with pride. This is a tough spot for Demars. He's definitely wishing he had that Snapcaster still so that he could go leak, snap, leak. But where would he even be?
I mean, if it was the God Hand, it would be leak, snap, leak, divine offering.
Demars definitely needs to get something going. An alchemy would be a step in the right direction. But it's tough once you start falling behind the Batterskulls.
Oh, dissipate.
So this is helpful. It's helping things not get worse. Demars was definitely hoping to use that dissipate on the first Batterskull.
Yeah.
But
I mean, particularly, we did not see the game 1 play out. We were watching another match entirely, so we don't know how that game 1 went. But Demars might already know that his opponent can go very big. I mean, bringing in a dissipate does usually mean that he expects that there is a true control deck on the other side of the table. A true slow game can happen.
So
with the Snapcaster once again.
So now it'll be interesting to see if Obi gives him credit for the Divine Offering, because now that the dissipate's been revealed, there's a story that makes sense for him to not have the Divine Offering.
Yeah,
and here
he
it
does
is.
Return it, and Brian says, okay.
Yep. Yeah, I think once you see the dissipate there, you're like, okay, my opponent was doing this, you know, it all makes sense because he wanted to dissipate my Batterskull. I can't give him any more credit.
I mean, there's only so much time. Yes, there's only a 7-turn clock left, but 7 turns, as long as that sounds, can go by very quickly, and it can change in math also very quickly. Another Snapcaster arrives, a Restoration Angel arrives, and suddenly you're talking about, 2 turns.
Absolutely. Like playing against fairies, sometimes it can just snowball out of control. So you want to try to get the advantage while you can. You know, if you just are too liberal with your life total, next thing you know, they misbind click you a couple times, or you just surprise Restoration Angel, Vapor Snag your guy twice. So, Obi keeping on Ponder. It's always tough because when they shuffle, it's like they got value, but whenever they keep, you've already lost.
Oh, that was bad. I'm never sure which one I want.
I want them to shuffle every time. Get the value, but need to have had the value.
That's fair. And we see a very heavy tap down here. Oh, there we go. Wait, nope. I don't think
Gideon?
there's any.
No, Batterskull. Yep.
I don't think there's any hidden mana hiding out somewhere.
And no fear of mana leak.
Unless there's something underneath that 14 that says an untapped land. That's.
I would imagine there has to be. It seems maniacal to just play Batterskull after Ponder from this position. Ah, there we go.
Okay, there we go. He does have 3 mana up. I was like, I remember him laying a tapped land last turn. He should have the mana to Ponder Batterskull have 3.
Dude, this might be one of those like schoolyard tricks. The old tap the mana. I have 1 floating. But under the current rules, you have to actually announce if you have mana floating after a spell.
And we see a Snapcaster Mage, a Phantasmal Image, a Restoration Angel, all in Brian Demars' hand.
Seems like Batterskull's actually seen slightly less play since the printing of Cavernous Souls, simply because it is a fatty, quote-unquote, that you can't force through with Caverns.
That's funny.
Now, are we going to see the old Mana Leak Snapcaster Mana Leak combo?
I hope so. That's always fun.
Talk about a good time.
Mana Leak.
Absolutely. I predict Obi pays.
I agree. Well, it depends, actually. I predict you're right, but I mean, if he thinks that this Batterskull is less important than what Brian might otherwise do, and now we're going to see the Snapcaster Mana Leak.
Absolutely. Restoration Angel, the best possible way to do this. Gets the full value from the Angel as a counterspell, presents a much faster clock. This is the best possible sequence. Despite 2 Batterskulls, Demars grinds through them.
I mean, this is practically a drain.
Wow.
Oh my God.
There's that surgical we talked about.
Oh, that was backbreaking.
I don't always surgical extraction, but when I do, it is for maximum value.
Oh, that was incredible. Okay, normally when I see a surgical, I get a frowny face in my, just my mind. Here, that was just amazing.
Now, On the flip side, though, Demars' hand, 2 Snapcasters and an image. That is a very, very reasonable grip. He's got, so to begin with, he can Snapcaster his Go for the Throat again. He's got Snapcaster for the Dissipate, and he's got he's got the Batterskull beat on board. He Snapcasters or Phantasmal Images to kill the Germ token, and then when he gets bounced, he can Snapcaster Dissipate. Meanwhile, he has Obi on a 2-turn clock. He hits for 5, then hits for 7, and that's game. Obi's going to need some other pressure. This is a real good spot for Demars.
Now, the kind of thing that Obi needs is some cheap removal so that he can, if need be, bring the Batterskull back, put it into play, and still have energy to get rid of that Angel.
Let's see. His own Snapcaster Mage would be effective for being able to hit the Surgical Extraction, but it'd still put him under a heck of a lot of pressure. He does have access to 3 Day of Judgments, which is definitely going to be important because Demars is probably going to have to main phase. There's a good chance that Demars will have to main phase the Phantasmal Image here because he needs to hit the Go for the Throat so the Snapcaster Mage can get in for damage. The problem is that if Demars doesn't draw a land, that leaves him naked to the ability to dissipate anything. It's also possible that Demars will want to just tough it out and play for a slow game, but I think this is probably one of those situations where you have to just go all in.
There's the mana.
Oh, he does have the land, so now he has access to both. This is a real tough spot for Obi. Most likely we're going to see Phantasmal Image, but possibly Snapcaster Mage on Go for the Throat. Yep, Snapcaster Mage, Go for the Throat. He Snapcasters the Go for the Throat in order to get rid of the Germ, clearing the way for the Angel and the Snapcaster to attack Obi, knock him down to 7, with 7 power showing. And Demars is representing Snapcaster Dissipate.
Remember, Obi has seen his hand. He knows it's there.
Right.
And the Germ tries to go to the graveyard, but then goes away into the void. 5 damage, down to 7.
So now Obi needs 2 game-winning threats, or stabilizing threats, in the same turn.
What does he have?
Now, a Snapcaster Mage would force through... Well, no, he can't even bounce the Batterskull and replay it. He just doesn't have the mana. Because if he did that, he'd walk face first into the Dissipate. We're going to see a Day of Judgment? We are.
What set is that from? Wow.
Demars lets it go.
Would you? I would fight over that. Wow. I mean, I would just be like, do you have the other card? Because right now he's in a position where that Batterskull can come back.
Well, he can counter the Batterskull, because he still has the Snapcaster. And this is why I thought it was just so important to play the image there instead of the Snapcaster. You want to have those Snapcasters in your hand for if things go bad. Wow. See, I think if I were Demars, I have to just chance it, you know? Like, you got to just commit more to the board.
Yeah, I think you go for it.
And you just
then try to stop the day. Okay.
But in any event, Demars... oh yeah, that's the buy a box promo. Was that for M10? I think it was the M10 buy a box promo. It might be M11. I think it was the M10 buy a box promo. We've got... this is probably just going to be the Batterskull again.
I mean, why not? I mean, what you're going to do? You're going to reclaim that life? That's huge.
But if he plays the Batterskull, he's suggesting that he can beat the Snapcaster Dissipate combo. But at this point, Demars doesn't even have any choice. Like, now he has to go for it. A game of inches. So there's the Snapcaster Mage. Obi debating his options.
Does he still have in hand an Angel?
Demars?
Yeah, no. Yeah, Demars.
Demars has an image and then an unknown that he drew for the turn.
That's what I think. It might be an Angel. I'm not sure though.
Now, if Obi has Dissipate here, it's going to be particularly punishing for Demars, who elected to keep an image instead of a Snapcaster.
There it is.
Wow! Imagine if he still had another Snapcaster in his hand.
And a new Germ is created.
Wow! And you cannot image that.
Well, you can.
Not particularly effectively.
Blade Splicer ×2. we gonna see Blade Splicer, Blade Splicer?
Absolutely, because at least this way the first strike holds off the batter skull.
Now this is relevant because then if Demars...
He didn't do it again.
Oh.
No image?
No image.
Oh, he has the Volt. He has Volt to the Archangel.
Oh, okay. This is relevant though. Like...
Now keep in
there's the ball.
mind, no, we just ran out of time, so depending on if they have any extra time...
They have extra time. One of the things that always happens is that the feature matches, because they have to take time to get under the camera, always end up having a little bit of extra time. Now, Obi, though, is in a position where I do not believe that, regardless of how much extra time he has, if he wins this game, I do not believe it's possible for him to win a Game 3.
It's extremely unlikely. It depends on how much extra time they have, but...
Now,
Demars might actually just be playing controlling at this point, because he's like, all I have to do is not lose.
Yeah. I mean, as soon as we find out how much time they have. Oh,
wow.
That's big.
That is definitely a card that can do things in a hurry.
He's got 3 mana up, a swamp in that upper left-hand corner, and 2 other sources.
Wow. It is so important to manage your snapcasters and images. Here we're going to see, if we can check on how much time is left in the round, we're going to see just how much position or how much counterplay Obi has, because
and
this game is definitely slipping out of control for Demars.
In for 4, so the image gets removed. I don't think that Brian had anything else.
Wow, he might not have realized the Vault of the Archangel's combo. Yes.
Boom.
Boom. This was major for Demars. Major. Correctly reads that Obi would fall for what is certainly not the oldest, but it is a trick in the book. Demars untaps with a bazillion mana.
I mean, his land is not exactly in some sort of pile where you can't see that it's there. It was available to be seen.
So now does he? Now that Obi is up to wait, Obi shouldn't be at 10 though. He was first struck. Obi should be at just 7 life, right?
Unless there's some other thing that we're not aware of, his life should still probably be 7. There might have been the life total might have been,
that's true,
along the way been lost. In for 4 to the Karn.
Yeah, because if Obi's at 10 life, you might as well just keep the Karn under control.
As best you can, anyway.
Right, because Karn, at this point, can hit the Golem, but that'll knock him to 3, and the hope is that he can get a little bit of counterplay going. And at this point, I mean, Demars just has to survive for 3 more minutes and 5 more turns.
Now that can be a challenge, but at the very least, one of the things, going back to how you have to manage your images and your snapcasters, at the same point, if you are playing a slower deck, you have to manage your own time.
Right, like right now, the fact that he's tanking, it cannot be worth it. You got to play faster, and it sucks because sometimes you're going to make mistakes, but when you have 2 minutes to try to win a match that you're down 0-1, and your opponent's at 27 and you have no clock on him, I mean, you got to be playing blazing fast and be thinking about what you're going to do during your opponent's turn when he's thinking.
Absolutely. Like, one of the things, if you're talking about Legacy and the new Blue-White Miracle deck, if you're somebody that likes that deck, get good at playing it so that you can finish 3 games. Because, you know what? You might not be able to if you take the quote-unquote proper amount of time to figure out every play.
Or sometimes the best play is to make a fast decision instead of whatever the instead of figuring out the mathematical.
Yeah, as Chapin was saying there, that fast decision. So let me say another way: the slow decision might not be worth the cost in time.
So
returning the batter skull.
Now, at this point, he still has to hit Demars like 6 times to get the job done, right?
Right, and that is only to manage to accomplish a draw, which obviously Brian doesn't want. But he actually has to hit 7 times, right? The Blade Splicer essentially
right,
buying him a whole turn. Now, there is a Karn there to make that a little bit, more difficult to defend. But, time, as we said, is a factor. Brian Demars here has already gained life. That vault did make it so that his life is fairly high right now.
So he is at 7 life, like we mentioned before. But either way, at this point, Demars is very clearly just trying to play for position here.
Let's get that card in your hand. And let's make sure that this dies on the right number.
Demars is definitely a veteran player, very surely very aware of what the real game is going on right now.
And
That's
time.
around.
Turn 0, Obi. Obi therefore has only 2 more attack phases with which to try to kill Brian Demars.
He can't reset the Karn. He can't. Wow.
In fact, if Obi were to, I believe, demonic tutor every turn, I do not think he can win this game in 2 turns.
So if he had a Gideon in his hand now, and a removal spell, now see there the token's blocking, and Demars is going to vault again.
Yep.
Can't keep walking into this. Wow. Devastating. So maybe he Blue Sun Zeniths for 4, and then no, he can't get enough power on the table.
That's the problem.
Oh, he can. He can go Blue Sun Zenith for 4, Lingering Souls flashback, Lingering Souls flashback.
Cast Elishnorn?
Yeah, exactly. It's going to end with Elishnorn in the final turn. That's right there. That's only 12 though. He needs Snapcaster Mage. That's 20. Image. It is going to be really hard to.
I don't see it. I mean, the match lasts 50 minutes.
Yeah. So, Demars pondering on, what is the corner case? He doesn't know Obi's exact deck list. What could go wrong?
White Sun Zenith?
White Sun Zenith is a good call. Not a lot of people play it, but it would actually be one of the few cards that could win from this position.
It exists,
It does.
right? So, I mean, if Brian, all he has to do is not die, he just has to think, how does the dying happen, and try to plan for that. So when you think about some of the slowest players who have played Control, one of the people that comes to mind for me is Dave Humphreys, who is one of the most talented players that Magic has ever seen, now a member of Magic R&D. One of the reasons that Dave was able to do that, though, is that Dave would be winning. Like, if, let's pretend that Obi had the 1 next to his name, this wouldn't be so problematic that he's taking some time.
Yeah. But when you're behind, you got to play lightning quick.
Yeah.
Lightning quick. It's not that Demars is playing slowly. He's playing at a very normal, reasonable pace, but Obi playing so slow and deliberate is costing him.
Yeah, and like Brian Demars is not abusing the clock here.
So there was that Blue Sun Zenith that we saw. Interestingly, Obi chose to Blue Sun Zenith and not use 3 of his mana so that he could get back his Batterskull. But that's 3 less cards he could draw.
And we are at the all over but the crying stage.
I was not aware that was a normal stage.
Yeah, it's actually one of the hidden stages in the game.
All right.
You have to unlock it, though.
Yeah, I can see why a lot of people haven't really seen it. Obi with plenty of mana, but not nearly enough to cast all the threats he would need to in order to win next turn.
Yeah, it's a pretty sad ending, honestly.
Well, I mean, it was a little bit of a comeback, but it definitely has to look like Demars has been in the driver's seat most of the game.
Oh yeah.
Plus the Vault of the Archangels play with the first strike.
Absolutely. When I'm thinking more about the unlocked ending here, the all over but the crying.
Karn up to 11. Sadly, Karn never going to be able to turn back time in this one.
You know what I'm really looking forward to?
What are you really looking
being
forward
able to have Nicole Bolas and Karn in the same deck.
Yeah?
I don't know if such a deck will exist and be at all good, but just putting them in the same deck, shuffling them up, casting them, having them both in play, sounds awesome.
I mean, you don't think that's a little bit much?
Awesome? Oh, it's much. I'm not talking about good here. I'm talking here about awesome.
So that's the curve, right? Like Sorin Markov into Karn into...
Oh, this has to be standard legal. So, Garrick.
No, Sorin will still be legal.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking the other Sorin. I was thinking the 6 mana Sorin.
Yeah, I am. Isn't he still legal?
He's not going to be in standard, is he?
For 3 months.
Is he?
He's in M12.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
I could go there.
I mean, as long as Karn is legal.
There we go. Okay, you're right.
Karn and Soren are like connected at the hip.
Is that part of the storyline? I don't know.
Absolutely. Overly attached Soren is, he's everywhere Karn is.
If you're wondering why we're not particularly commenting on turn, I believe, 5 or 3 from Brian Demars, it is because Brian is up game 1-0, and there is literally nothing that Obi can do unless Brian punches the judge to win this match.
They shake, and that's it. Demars takes the match 1-0 with his